Did MI6’s, Britain's legendary intelligence service, really try to weaponize the human mind? Did they train psychic spies to see across continents and turn thought itself into intelligence? The story is stranger than any spy novel, and it begins in the damp, paranoid corridors of Cold War Britain, when whispers of Soviet telepaths reached London. Fear, more than curiosity, drove men in tailored suits to consider the impossible. As the Iron Curtain hardened, MI6 analysts saw reports from Moscow claiming that Russian scientists had unlocked bioenergy perception. In a world where nuclear war could start by mistake, the British couldn't afford to laugh. Even a rumor was ammunition. Somewhere between state secrecy and superstition, the idea of psychic warfare took root at Porton Down, the government's top-secret chemical and biological defense facility. Scientists were already used to experimenting with the unseen nerve agents, hallucinogens, behavioral control. For them, the leap from toxins to telepathy didn't seem so far. Declassified files hint at a small project known informally as Blue Jasmine. Select volunteers were subjected to sensory isolation, sleep deprivation, and even microdoses of hallucinogens to expand cognitive perception. Officially, it was about understanding stress. Unofficially, it was about seeing without eyes. MI6, ever the pragmatist, had to wonder if a human mind could locate a hidden submarine or predict an enemy's next move. What value would satellites or spies still have? By the late 1960s, London was quietly liaising with its counterparts in Langley. The CIA had its own psychic venture, the now famous Project Stargate, testing remote viewers who claimed they could describe secret bases from thousands of miles away. The British wanted proof. One memo describes a joint demonstration. An American subject in Maryland was asked to describe a set of coordinates. He reported a circular monument of great stones surrounded by sheep. The coordinates pointed in Canale to Salisbury Plain. Two skeptical British observers, it felt like a lucky guess. To others, it was confirmation that consciousness could cross oceans. MI6 authorized limited funding for a domestic test. Candidates were recruited from the Army's Signals Corps, from universities studying parapsychology, even from civilian dowsing clubs. They were told they were part of a cognitive mapping program. In reality, they sat in windowless rooms, asked to sketch locations they'd never seen, from underground missile silos to random bonds in the countryside. Their accuracy hovered somewhere between chance and a miracle. When they were right, the room would fall silent. When they were wrong, the files were quietly burned. In 1972, an internal document labeled Eyes Beyond Lines explored how electromagnetic shielding might influence telepathic performance. The Ministry of Defense financed the construction of copper line chambers. Near Alderman, volunteers inside reported strange flashes of light and sudden, clear images in aircraft. A number, a face. Scientists struggled to quantify what they couldn't explain. Some concluded it was all just statistical noise. Others whispered that human thought might operate like radio waves, just waiting for the right frequency to be tuned in. Around this time, a young researcher named Dr. Helen Cartwright compiled data comparing these psychic impressions with satellite reconnaissance photos. Her findings were marked highly restricted. Years later, fragments appeared in a Freedom of Information release. So with that, 60% of verified psychic reports contained details that matched classified imagery. The rest was nonsense. But for intelligence chiefs, even a 1 in 10 chance of success was enough to justify continuing. As funding trickled in, so did the secrecy. Participants signed lifetime non-disclosure agreements. Porton Down's involvement blurred the lines between psychological research and human experimentation. Subjects later recalled injections to enhance focus, EEG helmets that pulsed with inaudible tones, and hypnotic scripts suggesting they could project awareness through solid steel and soil. MI6 liaison officers monitored every single session. Across the Atlantic, the CIA fed the British results into its own databases, comparing protocols. Both sides searched for patterns. Could emotion improve accuracy? Did belief matter? Did fear amplify the signal? The more they measured, the less they understood. But in the paranoid logic of espionage, not knowing was never a reason to stop. By the late 1970s, Britain's psychic initiative expanded under the codiname Operation Pleiades. The mission was simple: evaluate extrasensory methods for reconnaissance, remote viewing, psychometry. Even telepathic messaging were all logged under the clinical term anomalous cognition. The data filled hundreds of pages, most of which are still redacted. But the surviving summaries reveal a chilling ambition to foresee acts of terror before they happened, to intercept hostile communications without technology, and to subconsciously influence targets. It was the dream of an empire of the mind. To testis. MI6 staged controlled missions. A remote viewer in a London basement attempted to describe a location chosen by analysts in Glasgow. The sketch he produced, later compared with photos, matched the distinct outline of the Clyde shipyards. Probability analysts called it chance. Believers called it proof. The line between science and faith was blurring under the harsh fluorescent lights. Meanwhile, journalists started catching hints. In 1982, a tabloid printed a short piece titled "Psychic Spies of Whitehall," which was quickly dismissed as fantasy. But the leak rattled officials. The Defense Scientific Advisory Council concluded that while no empirical evidence supports parapsychological applications, continued observation of foreign programs is recommended. The translation was clear: keep watching the Soviets and Americans, just in case they were onto something. Inside MI6’s, a handful of officers clung to the conviction that this was real. One retired agent, interviewed decades later under anonymity, claimed the psychic desk saved lives during the Falklands War by predicting missile strikes minutes before radar confirmation. Whether this is a true memory or a myth born from fear, it reflects the strange faith this program inspired. As the Cold War cooled, budgets shrank. Psychic research began to look like an embarrassment in the new age of computers. Officially, by 1991, all British parapsychology contracts were terminated, yet classified spending trails suggested otherwise. Under vague labels like human performance, the Ministry of Defense quietly allocated funds to neurofeedback, intuition training, and non-local cognition studies. The public line remained skeptical, but inside certain halls, the question lingered: what if the mind could be measured, just like any other signal? Freedom of Information requests filed decades later revealed heavily redacted memos. One from 1997 referenced collaboration with foreign liaison partners on psi communication trials. Another described experiments using magnetically shielded rooms and fMRI scanners to observe brain activity during remote perception attempts. The results, officially inconclusive, but statistically interesting. So why does this strange story matter? Because it reveals a truth about the world of intelligence that few admit. Secrecy breeds belief, and belief can create its own evidence. MI6’s psychic spies may never have seen through walls or read encrypted codes with their minds, but their story shows what fear can make even the most rational institutions attempt. It's the same pattern that gave us the American Stargate project and the Soviet telekinesis squads. Each was a mirror reflecting our own deepest anxieties. The official record of Britain's psychic spies ends with skepticism. The unofficial one ends with unanswered questions. Former scientists admit that certain sessions produced data that was too consistent to ignore. Others insist it was all elaborate self-deception. And yet, every few years, rumors surfaced of a special liaison unit using intuitive analysts to profile modern threats. They may not call it psychic anymore. They use terms like enhanced situational awareness or non-rational data. The vocabulary has changed, but the ambition has not. Standing on Salisbury Plain today, with the wind sweeping over Stonehenge, you can almost imagine those early MI6 officers gazing at the monument that once inspired a vision from across the Atlantic. Maybe they wondered if the ancient builders knew something about the hidden frequencies of thought, energies that modern science still struggles to name. And so the question returns, unresolved. Did MI6 truly touch the edge of the unknown, or did they just chase its reflection in the dark? The answer might lie not in classified archives, but in us in those quiet moments when intuition defies logic, when we sense something before we see it, when the veil between the world and our thoughts feels impossibly thin. Maybe the psychic spies weren't proof of a secret power, but proof of a human possibility. And maybe, behind every file stamped closed, the human mind is still listening, just waiting for permission to believe. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the shadows, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories. Thanks for watching.